And welcome into the Young Dad Podcast, whether you're outside grilling, mowing the lawn, changing dirty diapers, or maybe, just maybe, you got a moment to sit back, relax, and listen to your favorite podcast. Well, I'm glad you're here. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, thanks for being here. Today's guest is someone who lives at the intersection of sacred and the stand up stage, Michael. He's been a pastor for over 20 years, married for 25 years plus, and still counting, and is a proud dad of two adult kids. And recently, he just woke up one day and decided, you know what, I'm gonna do something new. I'm gonna go do stand up comedy. He's in his 50s, plenty of time to still get into it, plenty of time to still do it. So why not? From open mics to sermons, he spends a lot of time behind a microphone. From awkward punchlines to deep spiritual insights, and yes, the deep spiritual insights are at the comedy club, and the awkward punchlines are at church. Michael brings humor, heart, and hope to every room he steps into, whether he's at a pulpit or a punchline. He's got something to say, and we're lucky to have him here on YDP. So make sure you grab your juice box, grab a snack, and let's jump in and have a great and welcome Michael to the show. Michael, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. So good to be here.
Of course, happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about your story here, how you got into ministry work, and then what really led you to stand up.
Yeah, so I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and it's like there's a church on every corner, but somehow like I never got exposed to any of them. My family background had a bit of a kind of volatility to it, and as I got into my late teens, just started asking questions about life, primarily like where is there stability in life, and that process led me in the direction of eventually coming to faith in Jesus. I didn't plan on being a pastor, kind of stumbled into that as well. Ended up going to seminary at a school called Dallas Theological Seminary, and then ultimately starting a church here in Austin, Texas, which has been going for about 15 years. And just during the pandemic, we're all sitting around thinking about life. And, I thought, man, wouldn't that be fun to just go into do an open mic and make strangers laugh? And, maybe in a sermon, you might get a chuckle here or there, but could you make strangers do it? And then honestly, it went horrible. And I thought, well, I did it. I'm done. And by the time I got to my car, I was like, nah, I can do better. And the second time went worse. And then the third time, I started talking about being a pastor and just talking about my everyday life, and got a couple of chuckles. And I've been doing that for the last year and a half.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I have the pastor at my church. He's always or pastors at churches I've gone to always have a very dry senses of humor where they try to add in a joke like they're talking about something really like serious, and then they try to throw a joke in here and there, and
Yeah.
sometimes it lands. By sometimes I mean like 5% of the time, and
Yeah.
then the other 95% it's more like a oh,
Yeah.
and just kind of makes everyone groan a little bit. They think they're hilarious, but
Yeah.
sitting there just like, can we do something? Can you can you not? But no, it's all good. It's entertaining. It keeps the mood light, keeps the mood fun. It helps break up some of the monotony. So
Yeah.
I think it's a real skill for pastors to have, is some of that like comedic training, and some, or not training really, but like that comedic background, right? Whether it's like doing stand up or improv and whatnot, and being able to like think on your feet and stand in front of people, because you can stand in front of people and talk about, you know, the Bible and Jesus all day long, right? But when it comes to standing in front of a bunch of people that you don't know and trying to engage them in a conversation, or try to engage them and get them entertained, that's a whole different ball game, because it's people that you're going to versus that are coming to you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Sunday morning, there's absolutely a courtesy laughter, and hopefully people like the pastor that, the church they're attending, and so they like the person. Where when you walk in, I mean, people are essentially paying a lot of money to be there, whether it's, getting ready or getting babysitters, or, you have to order drinks and food required in a lot of these clubs. And so, they're spending $150, just to walk in the door. And so they're just like, make me laugh. And if you don't, they have no problems just staring at you.
Mhm.
It is painful. Like, it is the best feeling making people laugh, and it is also the worst feeling when it doesn't happen. And there are so many times over the last year and a half I've thought to myself, like, I mean, I have a job. Like, why am I doing this to myself? But it's been a ton of fun.
That's cool. It's interesting to hear, like, you're working in these clubs, and you're doing stand up in these clubs, and people are coming in, they're spending their money, right? They're drinking, they're eating, um, and they're just there for a good time. And so you're very much stepping in from the world of a pastor, very much into the thick of the secular world. How do you how do you balance like that, going back and forth from one to the other, and then back, and staying like staying Pastor Michael at the end of it?
Yeah, it is something, when somebody told me I should talk about being a pastor, and immediately I was like, no, I'm not doing that, because I don't want to make fun of my faith, and I don't want to make fun of people who don't come to our church or a church. And so how do I do that? And so it's definitely a path that I'm still fighting to find. But I've also found that most, at least in Austin, the majority of people are not connected to a local church. And so the idea of knowing a pastor is kind of uncommon for a lot of people. And so I become a bit of a novelty to them, and then just try to talk about, the funny things that a pastor might do. Like, when I go to a hospital to visit somebody or officiate a wedding or sit down with a couple for marital counseling. And it's a bit of a kind of behind the scenes look that I didn't anticipate, but people seem to find interesting.
Yeah, no, it's I think people would find it interesting, right? Because it's like I think a lot of people that are in Texas know of churches, right? Like you mentioned, growing up, there's a church on every corner. It's probably the same, right? There's probably blocks of churches now versus being on every corner. It's just, a block here, block here, block here, block there.
Hmm.
And then so people know what a church is, right? And being able to see like the human side of a pastor, I think really helps people feel more comfortable with the idea of church, right? Because a lot of people hold pastors in a light, I think, of like, oh well, these guys are just like the holiest of holy, the holier than thou kind of people. They'll shame you, they'll ridicule you, they'll tell you how it is. They're gonna Bible you. They're gonna literally thump you over the head with their Bible that they carry in their back pocket. And somehow they're gonna pull from their regular size back pocket. They're gonna pull out a full size Bible and beat you with it. Just
Hmm.
anytime they see you doing the slightest thing wrong, right? Like I think a lot of people have that like idea of like pastors in church, and if I walk in, they're just gonna be throwing Bibles at me and beating me down and berating me and calling me out for every single thing I do bad and wrong and terrible. And but being able to see a pastor go up on an open mic stage in a club and do stand up comedy, I think really helps humanize the the role of a pastor. It's like, oh, wait, they are just people at the end of the day, right? They are
Yeah.
just, doing this, living the same life. Like they're just, out here doing comedy, or, they're hanging out with me. They're probably hanging out with me when I go to this place or this place. They don't shop at special stores. They don't go to special
Yeah.
places. They don't have dedicated movie theaters or dedicated bowling alleys or anything like that that they go to just because that's where they have to go to. They're just like me. Like they're standing in
Yeah.
the same place as I am.
Yeah.
So I think that.
Yeah, that's really one of the best parts of doing this is being able to get to know other comedians. And Austin right now is kind of blowing up. I mean, it just so happened to happen in my backyard. Joe Rogan moved to our city, and there's like thousands of men and women chasing the dream. And so you get to meet people that are kind of from all these different backgrounds, and then a pastor, kind of walks into the room, and it creates an easy connection with people of just talking about life, asking questions. Sometimes people have some type of faith background, and so they're trying to bridge the gap, to try to understand my world. Or just hearing them talk about their life and their perspective on life, like from a pastoral perspective, has been like super super helpful, because I'm 50 years old. I'm hearing 25, 30-year olds talk about almost any subject in life right now. And there's been so many times where I'm like, I never thought of that perspective. Like that's as a pastor, the more I can get a breadth of people, the easier it is for me to take my faith and connect it to their world.
Absolutely. And it gives you a chance to really connect with people that you wouldn't connect with otherwise, right? And to get an opportunity to minister to them in a really unique and special way that they wouldn't be getting anywhere else or otherwise because of, exactly what we're doing or what you're doing here. And I think that's really cool. And it really helps you reach them in ways that they wouldn't otherwise be reached by anyone. So I think that's really special. So is it what's been like of your comedy journey so far? It's only been a year and a half, so you're still pretty green, still learning what works, learning set writing and all that stuff. Like what are some of the things that you find most beneficial from it when it comes to then applying it to the day to day as a pastor, or the other way around from your pastor experience and applying that to stand-up comedy? Like how do those two things like intertwine?
Yes, in my head, I've kept them pretty separate because the way you craft a sermon, you're taking an idea and then you're drawing it out. You might spend 3 to 5 minutes kind of drawing out that idea in a sermon, but in a comedy set, the idea that is that people are laughing every 6 seconds. And so there's no drawing out. You're trying to make a much of assumption on that audience as you can to try to get on the same page and get to that punchline as quick as possible. So for me, I'm sure there is a blending taking place intuitively, but cognitively, I see it as a different process of how you deliver information. And so that's been really interesting because probably my biggest weakness as a comedian is that I'm giving too much premise. I'm explaining things too much, and you can feel kind of the room, go empty, and I'll get done, and I'm like, I need to cut, and just get to that faster.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, because in church, you gotta give all the context, right? You gotta
Yeah.
give, the backstory to the backstory to the backstory, back to Genesis, and then work your way back to back to the point you're trying to make, and just go through that constantly. And it's I can see how that can be difficult because it just throws you off, you know.
Now, my wife has said that she said I'm because she'll come to a majority of the stuff that I'm doing with stand up, and then she says I can see it bleeding over into Sunday morning, but I don't quite know what she means by that, because she's getting to see both as an observer. So I'm sure it's happening, but I'm not necessarily aware of that right now.
Love it. No, that makes sense. Kind of where everything's coming from. I think it's gonna bleed over, and I think it's gonna bleed over naturally for you.
Mm.
Because it's going to create just a what am I trying to say here? But I think the things that you learn, you're going to be able to make your points quicker, right? When you're coming to the pulpit versus being on stage, because you're working on making quicker points. Really getting to the main idea quicker, which can also help you at the pulpit on Sundays, because
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you're also going to bleed over. That I think that may be what's bleeding over because you're trying to get into it a little bit quicker, a little bit faster to really make that point. Because I mean, the people that are going to the club are going to be the same people that are in your congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Their attention spans need you to get to it a little bit quicker,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, and they need less context.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's totally okay. So, but it's interesting, nonetheless. It's interesting how
Yeah,
we
it's been a lot of fun.
yeah. No, so what challenges have you had like going into it? Going into it at this stage of your life.
Well, this is probably the easiest stage of life, I feel like, because my kids are grown, they're doing their own thing. The flexibility of my schedule is, I feel like, the most I've ever had. So the idea of doing something in the evening definitely allows that. I assumed there was going to be hurdles, going into stand up, comedy scenes, Christianity or a pastor or a church are kind of the jokes, making fun of people in some type of authority. And so I thought they are going to shun me. Like, you're not allowed to come and, play in this arena. But I've experienced the exact opposite. I mean, people have just been incredibly friendly, incredibly inviting, and receptive. There's definitely internal hurdles. It is a humbling experience. It is a grind. You put in a lot of sitting and standing around and waiting to kind of get your turn, for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and talking to people. It's a lot of networking, and so just personal doubts and insecurities are probably the biggest hurdles. Questions like, I'm wasting my time. Why am I doing this to myself? This is I'm embarrassing myself. Those are definitely thoughts that have been the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So how are you working through those hurdles, like in your own mind, working through those in like real time?
Yeah. Well, some of it is creating goals. And when I'm having those thoughts of this is a waste of time, I just kind of drive my mental focus back to like, well, what's my goal? And what's my purpose in doing this? And then are those things materializing? And then if I can see how it's moving in that direction, then that helps me to confront and combat, some of those doubts, and trying to not project of the future of just like, well, today, right now, this is being productive towards this goal that I've established, and I just need to focus on that and really holding it all with an open hand. Like, I'm totally comfortable, a month from now, 6 months from now, if I'm like, you know what, I met a lot of those goals, or those goals really didn't materialize, and this was a fun hobby that I did for a year and a half, 2 years, and that's okay. Like, I can move on to something else. Especially at this season as a 50-year-old, I feel like, you know, we have such an opportunity to try new things, and you have this internal like momentum as I'm getting older is to take less risk. And I'm really trying to combat that of like, no, I want to try new things. I want to keep experiencing what life has to offer. I want to keep try to kind of push myself to do something that maybe is a little uncomfortable, because I want to experience just the vitality of life, and because I can feel my world trying to get smaller. As I finished raising kids, I can just kind of stay home and I don't have to go anywhere, and I can just kind of just do, I know what I like. I'm just going to do what I like. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I can,
Yeah, like
and
you're redefining like your comfort zone, like, right? Like your comfort zone is very defined. Like you only have so many things now you have to do. Your
yeah,
list of everyday to-dos is a lot smaller. It's not as large, it's not as big, it's not as the demands of every day aren't as big, right? Like you have a
yeah,
job, you still got to do that, and like you have the things that you're doing and you still got to do those things. But other than that, it's like the the free time is exponentially bigger now,
yeah,
having the kids out of the home and whatnot, and just trying to define like who you are. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have as well. Like when you're done raising the kids, like you kind of have to refine like who you are, right? As
hmm,
a dad, and you don't get to just stay, as a dad forever, because they are going to grow up, they are going to move out, they are going to go and do your thing, and then who are you at the end of
yeah,
it? And you have to
yeah,
re-identify those things, because yes, you'll still probably be working and you'll still have your career and you'll still have those things, but like who are you and what do you want to do with the rest of your life now? Like you spent the first little half of it raising kids and being a dad, and for the vast majority of it and growing up yourself, and now what?
yeah.
Now what?
And I haven't talked to my children about this, but there are some parallels, because they didn't get to see my wife and I carve out our family, carve out our careers, take those risks. They've always just known us as established people from their eyes who just seem to have it all together. And so that's kind of been a bonus, is they're getting to see their dad, take a risk. And they absolutely are like, Dad, what are you doing? And then they've been in context where people have laughed. And I can see like their faces kind of change as they're starting to see me, how this stranger sees their dad. And
They're
that's
like,
an
"Oh my
interesting,
gosh, my dad's actually funny." All those jokes he made all
right?
those years, they were actually people actually would have laughed at those.
Because they're carving out their lives, they feel that
Mhm.
pressure and take that risk, and so to kind of get to shadow that with them in a much smaller way, it's this is a hobby for me, but I don't know. I think that's a fun parallel with my kids as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, right? Because you set the example in so many other ways, but they've never seen like the example of okay, how do you build something new? How do you start something
Yeah,
new? How do you take that risk? What do you learn from it along the way? And I think you're right. I think our kids do see that not all the time, but some of the time with us as dads are like, oh well, dad's got it together, dad's got it figured out, dad's established, and mom's established, and they're established people. We got nothing to worry about on our end, kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of different situations out there, so not every situation is like that. I don't want to even try to put a number on how many situations are like that versus aren't, because I don't think there's a number that could accurately define that, because every situation's so different.
mm-hmm.
But then kids, at the end of the day, they're just gonna see, oh yeah, my dad's got it together. He's got it.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
making it. It's fine.
yeah,
He's doing good. He's doing great. 'Cause that's a kid perspective, right? But I think as they get older and now they see you doing this, I I bet it's inspiring to them. Like, oh man, my dad's doing comedy. He's a pastor, but he's also doing stand up comedy now. So why can't I do that thing that I want to do that I'm scared of,
yeah.
right? And then when they talk to you and your wife, and then it can be more like, oh well, dad's doing this, and so if you're afraid to do that, then, here's what I'm going through. And I think it's a great way to relate to people, and it gives you just a whole new path of relating to your kids, a whole new way to relate to them.
Yeah, because I see kind of a track of thinking in our children where, like, if you're not going to be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, or some famous athlete, then it's not even worth trying to. So if I'm not going to be the next Jim Gaffigan, like I'm wasting my time,
Mhm.
and for them to just like not everybody's Elon Musk. There's a lot of people in between, and those roles and contributions are still important and worthy. And so that's definitely a track I see them wrestling with, and then trying to carve out, okay, so what does it look like to do something that's going to be unknown.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of kids. I think a lot of kids feel like they have to be the next big thing, and they're not willing to be anything less than that. They're like, "I gotta be the next big thing or I'm a failure," kinda thing. There's like it's boom or
Yeah,
bust. And
yeah,
that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot
no,
of really good, satisfying jobs out there, careers, opportunities, things to try that are out there that you can try that'll make you really happy, that'll bring you a lot of joy, that'll bring you a lot of purpose. You don't have to be the next Elon, the next Mr. Beast, the next ninja for streaming and things like that. Like if you enjoy it and you like it, do it. Kind of thing. If
yeah,
you want to go into social work, then and that's where you feel like your passion is, or teaching, or wherever you feel like your passion is, like do it. Just
yeah.
because you're doing that doesn't mean you're anything less than those people who are chasing, becoming a streamer and whatnot. Because guess what? You're gonna have a stable income year over year, and they probably won't.
Yeah,
Kind of thing. Yours is a career that's gonna be there for a very long time. Theirs could be gone tomorrow.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
thing, right? And so we gotta think about that. We gotta help our kids see the practical side of it, right? And it's like if you want to be the best, and then go into this field that you're passionate about, and then go be the best in that field, right? Work hard and give everything you can to it. If you want to be a teacher, go and do everything you can. Be the best freaking teacher you can. Go to school, get your master's, to be a educational administrator, and just work hard and, follow that path and work really hard, gain the respect of your peers so that that's a natural path because you outwork everybody around you, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
If you want to go into social work and whatnot, then work super hard, gain enough experience, get your licensure, and then, take some business classes along the way on the side or something, or learn about business on the side, work super hard. So then by the time you're done, you have enough experience and business knowledge to start your own business kind of thing.
mm.
Make some connections with some other people that you can trust, that you are in with, that you guys can all invest in one practice together and open up your own practice kind of thing. different things like that. If you really want to be the best and you want to be, that boom, do it in the field that you love,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So that's just my thoughts there. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but how do you make sure that your values aren't ever compromised?
Hmm.
Whether that's sitting in like green rooms and talking to other people, or being on stage, or being in an environment, because environment can you can be as strong as you want. The environment can get to you, right? Because you're in that place, you
Yeah.
know. So how do you really hold your values, uphold yourself? Because I'm pretty sure you're, unless it's part of your act, you're not going in any religious regalia or anything.
Right.
Also, you're a Christian. I think you're a Christian pastor.
Yeah.
So there's not really any regalia that comes with that, anyways. Your regalia is just your nicest shirt in your closet to wear.
Hmm.
But is how do you uphold like your everyday values?
Yeah, so I mean, it probably just starts in the kind of the personal daily connection I have with Jesus, and just the time I personally just tend to my heart and my head about just my own faith and why he's important to me, and the difference he makes in my life, and just genuinely that this is something I've taken ownership of. And then when I do enter into the context of a comedy scene, it is definitely on the forefront of my mind. So I'm definitely praying about it, before, middle and after, and just asking, for wisdom and for his favor. And so those are two big parts. A third part would probably be just trying not to put myself in compromising, places. And so obviously the content that I'm talking about, I am wrestling with. I'm obviously a clean comic, but the material. Can I talk about race, in a way that's not offensive? Can I talk about sex? Like one of the things I've been kind of trying to draw out is, my wife and I've been married for 26 years, and so for a 25-year-old in Austin, that they would probably think that that's boring. And so just trying to draw, can I talk about sex in a way to address that and make it funny, but also be respectful to my wife? Like, so as I mean, my content is something I think a lot about. I think like there is a show here in Austin called Kill Tony, and it's on
Yeah,
YouTube, and it's
I
the
love Kill Tony. I think it's so good.
it's
It's
so it's
funny,
funny.
really funny.
So people come up and they give their best minute, and then he can do sometimes a 15-minute interview. And I'm comfortable with the minute. I'm terrified of the 15-minute interview because I like to laugh. And his whole goal is to get you to say something that's going to go viral, it feels
Yeah,
like. And
yeah. It's
man,
just to
I
get,
could totally,
and that would be easy for them to do to you too, because it's like, oh, we got this pastor saying
yes,
some off the wall stuff, or going there kind of thing, and that would be easily. It wouldn't even probably
yeah.
be that bad, right? But it's like, oh, we got a pastor saying this. Look at this.
Yeah, and I'm very susceptible. I know if I'm getting swept up in a conversation, and one guy says this, one guy says that, and I'll say something too, and I'll forget, like, that's not okay. And so people have told me, like, you need to do Kill Tony, because it's in our backyard, and I'm like, no, like, I am not putting myself in that position, because the risk versus the reward, like, is just, it's not there. And so even just things like that, just trying to put myself in a context that is going to set myself up for success, instead of put me in a compromising place. So those are the few things that come to mind to try to maintain the character that I want to have.
Definitely. And I think Kill Tony also, I think it puts some comedians that do get that viral moment, but maybe they're like really young or really raw, and it puts them into this box to where now they're saying the same joke, right? Now they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of boxed into this kind of joke, this kind of style, this kind of approach, and they may not like that.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I think it's good to work on your material for a long time, and then Kill Tony kind of comes to you, right? To when it's, yes, you did kill Tony, and you got the minute, but when you get to the point to where you're not terrified of the 15-minute conversation happening, right?
Right.
and where it just happens. And it's like, cool, if it, I'm super comfortable doing it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, then I'm not worried about it. I'm prepared either way. Um,
Yeah,
but I
that's
think
right.
that's
Like
really
I've
cool.
already felt a greater comfort and confidence when people are asking me questions one on one, because people are asking me like, well, hey, what do you think about this cultural event? What do you think about this? And it can feel a little bit uncomfortable because I'm trying to read the situation. I'm trying to be sincere about my beliefs and trying to further the relationship. And I mean, definitely if I thought about it on day one, I was much more, my brain was much more jumbled going into those conversations. And a year and a half later, I definitely feel more confident. And so I could see that applying, maybe over time, the idea of being in that context where everything kind of just slows down and I'm much more comfortable. So that's a good point.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting how you mentioned like specifically like being very particular about the situations that you put yourself in, right? I think that can be translated to so many other places, just in our regular lives. Like we we can be easily become products of our environment, and then you know yourself really well too. Like you'll get swept up, you'll get engaged. I'm the same way. If I'm just spitballing and talking, and the conversation flows and flows and flows and flows, and you stop thinking just as much because you're really comfortable, you're having fun, you're
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah. Just
laughing and having a
laughing.
good
Yeah.
time, and stuff just slips, you know, stuff does slip because we're at the end of the day we're human. You're human, I'm human. I'm not a
Yeah.
pastor. I'm nowhere close to a pastor, but you are, and so it's like, but it's like those things happen, right? They're natural. We're human at the end of the day, and that's gonna happen, and that's really it's okay. It's okay if it
Yeah.
happens. You haven't gotten struck by lightning yet. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've been
Yeah.
forgiven, right? And you own up to those things and you recognize them pretty quick, like, oh, that was a mistake. But no, it's I think that's really cool how to navigate that. And you can apply that, right? Put yourself in situations where you know more likely than not you'll be successful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't put yourself in a situation to where you feel like you'll be easily compromised. Because guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You'll be compromised.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, because sometimes the mind is strong, but the body's weak. And if you put
Yeah.
yourself in that situation, then, you know, some say biology takes over, human nature takes over, but it takes over. It takes
Yeah.
over. And it wins. It wins. But it's interesting here. But let's see. Anything else from your comedy journey so far that really relates to ministry, to your day to day, to parenting that you wanted to that you
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest connection on a personal level and practically has just been the relationship with the other comedians and getting to, some of them have visited on Sunday morning at our church. Our church is, I was super nervous early on that our church family would be skeptical, like, why is he doing this?
yeah.
This guy's not on a stage enough already. He's got to do this also. It could have a bad
Yeah,
perception.
they probably thought you had some kind of ego problem going on. It's like, oh, he needs to feed his ego more.
Right, right. And it's actually just been the opposite. They've just been so supportive. It's been kind of a novelty, like, where they'll tell people about me at their office, like my pastor tries to do stand up. Like, isn't that funny? Like it's been so well received. And then over the last year, we've done I guess two. We're trying to do another clean comedy show where we've raised about 3 grand for two different charities each time, and our church family gets on board with that, and they invite their friends, and I'll do 5-10 minutes of me trying to be funny, and then bring in some other local comedians from Austin. And Austin really doesn't have a lot of clean comedians, and so that's really been fun because Joe Rogan and Kill Tony have such an influence. I mean, a lot of comedians are following that model,
Yeah, they
and
just want to
so
be there. They just want to be there, and I think it's
yeah,
good for like those clean comedians to know that oh, there's this pastor. He
yeah,
has this church and he does these shows sometimes, and it gives them an opportunity to really, you know, probably just breathe and be more themselves, right? To where it's like been trying to fit this mold, and I've been trying to do these things, and now I can come here and I can just, you know, live, and it's such a unique way at the end of the day too to minister to people. It's such a unique way to get people, you know, thinking about it, talking about it. My pastor does comedy. Your pastor does what?
yeah, yeah.
You mean he makes like dumb church jokes on Sunday? No, 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 no. He does actual stand-up comedy at like the club and stuff. What? And people are going to talk about that. They're going to be so confused. But then the same people that you're interacting with, that you're talking to, on at these clubs and the comedians and whatnot, then coming to church, is such a unique way to minister. It's such a powerful way, to go and find the one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
your way of finding the one at the end of it. And it's just so cool because it's something that most pastors would never do in 100 years. They would say you're crazy for doing it. Probably say you're not a real pastor. I think it's such a cool way to go and find the one and connect with people that you would never connect with, that no pastor would ever connect with, that no church would connect with. But because of you doing what you're doing, you're connecting with them in such a unique and fun and interactive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, most of the Christians I talk to, their assumption is one, I'm going to stop being a pastor. And then two, that, I want to be a Christian comedian. And and so trying to explain to them, I'm like, I have no interest of going to other churches and trying to, do jokes. Like I do want to go into places that our faith isn't, normally talked about in a positive way. And there's so many opportunities in Austin. I don't know how long this will last, but it's here. And so just trying to take advantage of something that's happening, already in my city. And really it's been beneficial for me personally. When my children were younger, many of my spiritual conversations with people would have happened through my kids' friends' parents, right? You go to a park, a play date, a birthday party, kids are playing, parenting's hard. I mean, you just talk about life, and of course that's going to lead into spiritual conversations and faith and but now that my children are older, there's not those opportunities, and so this has really been a great outlet just to engage other people, and that sharpens my faith. That sharpens what I believe, and because they're asking real questions, and I'll think about. I mean, I'm a seeker of truth, and so I'm like, let me think about that. How does that question apply, to what I believe, and that only like benefits me, and so it's made my faith
100%.
more vibrant. And so that's what, just as far as like parenting, like we mentioned earlier, to circle back of like, man, I love being a parent, and it's a noble thing to be a father and to definitely lean into that. But it also, the trajectory of our children, the success or identity of our children can't become our focus. It's just one part of our life, and the more we can have other things going on in our life is the better.
Absolutely. No, I love it. And I think it benefits you, right? Like you mentioned, like there's such a huge benefit here. It makes you more aware on issues. It helps you clarify where you stand on certain things and gives you more information because, everyone thinks comedians don't talk about real world things. They just talk about jokes all day. But no, those conversations are real. They're deep, and you're able to give your insights and you're able to learn new things. And I think that's the coolest part here because then you can take that back and you can apply it and you can then teach others about it. And it's just the the circle of this information here is just really cool how it's going, how it's distributed, how it's coming in, and it's so unique. And I love what you're doing here. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thanks for the
Of
encouragement.
course. So for the last few minutes here, do you want to jump into the dad zone with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, it's not really an option, but I ask anyway. But it's
Okay.
fine. So the dad zone is just 4 questions. We've had a pretty lighthearted conversation, I think, today. So the dad zone
Yeah.
is just what the people want. They demand it, so they get what they want, kind of thing. I'm a man of the people.
Yeah.
Dad zone, 4 questions. We'll get through real quick and then we'll wrap this thing up. First question in the dad zone: does pineapple go on pizza?
I mean, I could do it. I probably wouldn't choose it, but I love pizza. So if it's on there, it's not going to stop me.
Okay, fair enough. Who are 3 people, dead or alive, and they can be fictional or real, that you would like to have over for a dinner party?
Yeah. I mean, of course, Jesus, that would be awesome. My father, he passed away when I was 30. And so that definitely, would enjoy that. And then, I mean, Eddie Murphy, like, that would be the best.
That would be
In
such a
fact, all
cool.
three of them at the same dinner, that would be the best.
Yeah, they'd all be at the same dinner, so that's cool. No, that would be awesome. What is your guilty pleasure food? What are you snacking on when you go to the clubs? Or are you like, okay, I'm gonna eat this here so my wife doesn't find out about it? But no, I'm just kidding. What's your guilty pleasure like go to kind of snack or food?
I mean, I love ice cream, and I could eat a gallon of ice cream like in one sitting. And so I can't eat it very often because it'll kill me. But we have a company here in Texas called Bluebell,
Mm,
and it's the best. It's the
Bluebell's
best.
some
It's
good
hard
ice cream.
enough. Like I like hard ice cream, and it's also creamy. Like I mean, I could talk about ice cream a whole other hour.
Ice cream is good. It's good. Not my go-to, but it is good. It is good.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a sorry, let me rephrase this. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a new dad, a new young dad, age 18 to 22, who's just starting out his fatherhood journey?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in having like a personal vision for your life. And so I would say that, like every company, has a vision that they have what they're trying to chase after. And the more a young man can know like his vision in life, and even if it's not, going to last him the rest of his life, even if it's 3 words, just trying to articulate this is what I want my life to be about, and then basically reverse engineering. If I want my life to be like that, so what does that look like at 90, and then 80, 70, 60, all the way to 20? And so what are the decisions I need to be making today to move me in that direction? And what I've found is that over time, those 3 words will become clearer, will become more robust. And then obviously, if you can bring your wife into that vision and then even pass that down to your children. So when they're asking, like, how come we can't go to this restaurant or go buy this toy, you drive them back to, like, well, this is how we make decisions in our family. This is our family values, our vision. So that was really instrumental for me. And I would encourage any young person to have that.
I love that. No, it's a great foundation. And so, for our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you like to watch a podcast, TV, computer, wherever, even if you just have this on in the background, you can go to follow Michael and his stand up journey over on Instagram at Michael Dennis Comedy. That's MichaelDennisComedy. You can play that back at like 0.75 speed and you'll get it there. You can also click the link in the show notes as well, or you can just look up Michael Dennis Comedy, Michael Dennis on Instagram, and I'm sure he'll pop up. You can find him. They're a great way to support him, great way to support the work he's doing, and yeah, and keep up with all of his comedy journeys and whatnot, and see more about his funniness of how he's trying to draw the funny out of being a pastor. So, with that, to the audience, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for being here. On go and do the things you can to support the podcast, and you know exactly what to do. 5 stars, review, subscribe, engage, interact. Those all things help the podcast tremendously. And we'll catch you right here next time on the Young Dad Podcast.